Greetings Guzzlers. Now I thought I'd make a cake, and I thought let's make something I haven't made before, and then I thought hang on, let's put a little special twist on this. So I'm not just going to make a cake I ain't made before, a lemon and cream cheese pound cake. I'm going to actually make it a little bit different from just a straightforward cake. I'm going to bake a cake for the Ukraine. So we're going to theme this based around Ukraine. So that's what we're going to bake. A lemon and cream cheese pound cake for the Ukraine. In here I've got 290 grams of very soft butter. And what we're going to do is I'm just going to put that onto here with the beater, and we're going to whisk this up about medium to high. We're going to get lots of air in it. We want to get nice and pale and fluffy. I do like my fluffiness, don't I? I've just added 185 grams of soft cream cheese, and now I'm going to add the zest of one whole lemon to get the lemon flavour. Now, my cake, my Ukrainian cake, is not based on a Ukrainian recipe or anything like that. It's just the colour scheme. I decided let's sort of make it in the colour scheme of the current Ukrainian flag. I say current because the original flag that was actually adopted in 1848 by the revolutionaries who were trying to free the Ukraine, or western parts of the Ukraine, from the Austria-Hungarian rule. And they wanted independent rule, as it were, and they wanted a national flag. Now, prior to that date, people didn't have national flags. Well, it might have been a little bit earlier than that, but it weren't that long ago that people didn't have a national flag. And what they wanted was to base their flag on the colour scheme of the coat of arms of the city of Lviv. I might not have pronounced that one right. Lviv. And that was a golden lion on like a blue shield. And so they wanted the gold and the blue. And so they devised a flag which had a blue stripe at the bottom and a yellow stripe at the top. Gold lion on the blue. But of course, as those of you who've been paying attention to the news, you'll know that that's not the current Ukrainian flag. So I'll tell you about that a bit in a minute. So now all we're going to do is we're now just going to make sure this is all nicely combined together. Now your oven needs to be on at 170, so that's got that combined, and in here I've got 415 grams of caster sugar. I'm just going to add that. And I'm just going to whisk this through for about 3 or 4 minutes to get it all nicely combined. So we said about the flag. We said how the flag was the blue stripe on the bottom and the yellow on the top. Well, in 1918, they decided they were going to reverse those colours to become the traditional, as we now know, Ukrainian flag with the blue on top and yellow on the bottom. And the idea being this was the blue skies of Ukraine looking down on the golden wheat fields of the Ukraine. And so that, in 1918 became the standard national flag of Ukraine. And then 1919 happened. While that's whisking, I'm going to take 5 eggs and crack them into this bowl, and then just give them a good beating or whisk together to combine them all, ready for when we're going to add the eggs to that mix. So that's at about 3 minutes, and that's all nicely combined. And what I'm doing now, like I said, just whisking up these eggs. And what we're going to do is we're now just going to add them effectively sort of 1 eggish at a time, okay? And make sure each one, as we add it, is nicely combined in there. So this is where we make a mess everywhere. Whoops, that was a bit more than one, but never mind. We get that mixed in, so I'm going to go through, so I've got all them eggs combined. In my sieve there, I've got 290 grams of plain flour, and I'm just going to add, I need to open another one, half a teaspoon of baking powder, which is just about all the baking powder that's in there. And then so I'll just sift that into that bowl. And while I've got my half teaspoon measure there, I'm now just going to add half a teaspoon of vanilla extract. So I'm just going to combine that vanilla in, get that all sifted. I'm also going to add into that a pinch of salt. Get that sifted, and then we can start adding it into the batter. What I'm going to do now is I've just taken that off the mixer for now, and just going to get this all stirred in together before we'll put it back on the mixer to get it mixing again. So I said to you then, you know, 1918, we've got our current flag, and then 1919 happened. So what happened in 1919? Well, in 1919 was once again when the Russians decided, hang on, we want Ukraine, they're going to become part of us, and basically went marching in and occupied Ukraine. And at this point they said, you don't need your own flag because you're part of the USSR as it was then, and therefore they replaced the flag with a red flag with the letters YCCP in the top left hand corner, and that became the new flag representing that state, if you like, of the USSR. So just going to get that back on the mixer, and we're just going to make sure that's well combined. Now at this stage we don't want to overdo the mixing. We want it mixed in, but we don't want to overdo it and knock all the air out. That's got it all mixed, and what I now want to do is I'm going to split this back. Now if we were just making a straightforward the lemon and cream cheese pancake, we'd just tip that in the tin. But I'm going to split this into two. We're going to make two cakes, so we're going to make a layer cake, and we can have a blue layer and a yellow layer. So all I'm going to do is I'm just going to weigh this into this bowl that had my flour in earlier, and then we'll split it into two bowls and we'll do our colouring. So 712 grams in each. And first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to colour this bowl yellow. So I've got a new type of colouring for me. This is a Colour Milk one. This is an oil-based colour. At this stage, it doesn't really matter. Okay, but what I'm going to add to the coating, if you like, requires an oil-based colour rather than the standard sort of water-based one. But we'll come to that when we do it. Now we want a nice rich yellow, so you know, don't be frightened to add too much. We need to obviously make sure it's all mixed in, but I'm trying not to over mix it. I'm going to add a little touch more, and then once that colour's in, it's going to get poured into the tin, and then it's going to go in the oven, like I said, at 170, and bake it for 10 minutes. And after 10 minutes, without opening the oven, because I don't want it collapsing, we're going to just crank the temperature down to about 150, 155, and then let it cook for about 30 minutes. Okay, so we've got that one. This colour, I have to say, it does go everywhere. I got it early when I've done them, there's a bit of foil on top, and I removed it. I ended up, well, I don't know if you can see, I've got blue fingers. So obviously when I did the blue one. So I'm just going to get these coloured up and get them cooking, and then we'll catch up with what we're going to do with the cake afterwards. So obviously when the cake comes out, I'm just going to let it cool before we can add our buttercream and everything else. The cakes are cooked, they're just cooling. I've done a bit of trimming, but before I finish off trimming all of them, we're going to start making our buttercream. Now we're going to make a buttercream that we use for the filling between the two layers, and also that we're going to coat the entire thing in, and we're going to coat it entirely in yellow. So we've just made our two colours of the flag, our yellow and a blue, and then we're going to coat it all in yellow. But wait. So anyway, in here I've got 500 grams of really soft butter, and I'm just going to whip this all up. And then I've got a bowl there, a rather large bowl, 1,125 grams of icing sugar that I've sifted. You're going to want about 6 to 7 tablespoons of whole milk, and we want some of that, more of that yellow food colouring. So I'm just going to get the butter whipping. So I've got all that icing sugar now incorporated. I'm now just going to add a little bit of the milk at a time, just to loosen it up, and then we're also, like I say, adding that yellow. And again, we want that nice bright yellow. Buttercream's done. Cakes are now trimmed. Almost had a little accident with the blue. Got a little bit dented, but at least I managed to save it from being like 3 cakes. So what we're going to do is I'm just going to smear some buttercream onto there so that we can glue as it were our yellow layer. That's just about central, and then all I'm going to do is I'm just going to spread a layer. It's not quite the same yellow as the cake. The cake, the yellow darkened as it cooked. But all I'm going to do is I'm going to spread a generous layer of the yellow on top of there, and then we'll put the blue on top. So now, in true cupcake jammer style, we're now going to give the whole cake a crumb coat, and then that will chill in the fridge for about 20 minutes, and then that way when we come to cover it with the rest of this buttercream, we will better add a nice clean layer without all these crumbs in the way. So just remember, this doesn't have to be perfect, okay? This is just to seal in all those crumbs. And you'll notice that what I've done is I've taken some of the buttercream out and put it into a separate bowl so that I don't end up scooping any of this with crumbs into our main mix. So I'm just going to get this crumb coated and then in the fridge. Now we're going to give a generous coating of the buttercream. Whoops, that almost went on the floor, didn't it? All over, okay, and give it a nice smoothing. Now obviously we want to try and get the top as smooth as possible, but it's not critical because we're going to be putting a coating on top, okay? And it's 8 o'clock, a bit late starting. So I'm just going to get this, I better get that cleaned up, nicely coated. So although it is a little bit rough on top, I'm not worried about that. I've got most of the sides nice and smooth, that'll do me. So that's going back in to chill, and we'll get making the final topping. So in a pan here, I've got, didn't end up converting it, 1 cup, or there will be about the equivalent. I'll put a cup and a bit because you want about a cup's worth of melted chocolate. Now we're going to use white chocolate because I want to colour it. Okay, so we're going to melt this down, and we're also going to add a tablespoon of vegetable oil, okay, and mix that in. But I want to colour this blue because if you remember, our flag is yellow on the bottom and blue on top. Now the cake layers inside are like that, but at the moment we've now encased the whole thing in yellow. So we're going to do a blue chocolate drip layer on top. So it won't be a straightforward banded thing, but I thought that will do. So The important thing is, because it's chocolate, don't want any water in it. Hence the reason I've got these colour mill colourings, like I said at the beginning, because if we use a water-based colouring, the chocolate will seize. It won't be any good. So we're keeping the water out, so we've got an oil-based one there. So I better not spill any of the G&T in there. So while we're melting this down, and as usual, don't have a bain-marie. You could do it in a microwave, but you want to be careful you don't go too far. Final thing about the flag. So I said to you that, you know, when the Russians came along and invaded and took it over, they gave them a new flag and said you're part of the USSR. Well, in 1992, with the breakup of the USSR, Ukraine immediately went back to being Ukraine, and they immediately got rid of that Russian flag and went back to their standard Ukrainian People's Republic design. So they got their colours back, and that's sort of the history of Ukraine, or Ukraine's flag. So I'll catch up with you when this is melted down and we're getting ready to do that final coating. So that's almost all melted down. So at this point I'm going to add a tablespoon of vegetable oil. We're going to get that stirred in. And I'm now also going to add colour in, try not to get it all over him. So remember, we want that nice rich blue. So I'm going to add that, stir it all in, and when I've got the blue that I want, we'll be ready to start drizzling. And now what we're going to do is, I'm now just going to run it around the edge, so we get a little bit of drizzle down the side. It's not very tall cake, so obviously you don't want it so too much runs down, otherwise it's going to coat the whole thing blue, which we don't try not to do. So like I said, I know it's not strictly speaking the same as a flag, but the colours are the same. And then just going to add some more on top. We'll just smooth it so we've got the layer of chocolate all over. And then I'm going to put that back into the fridge, let that set. Oops, let that set. But there is our almost ready to eat cake for the Ukraine. So here it is, our cake for the Ukraine, our lemon and cream cheese pound cake with a yellow buttercream coating and a blue chocolate top layer representing the Ukrainian flag. Let's check the inside. So let's take a slice. The chocolate's not quite set yet. And now let's check out those multicoloured layers. There we go. We've got our yellow for the golden wheat fields, our blue for the sky on top, resembling the Ukrainian flag, and then an outer coating of yellow and blue. So let's try it out. The cake is lovely and moist. Not too dense at all. Buttercream. Just standard buttercream. We didn't put any vanilla in this one. But very nice. So there it is. My cake for the Ukraine.